All right, now things are getting really fun with the hip hinge because we're going to start looking at how it directly applies to walking. So I talked about in the blog post about the way that walking ideally is sort of standing on one leg, and then that standing leg pulls behind you, and then you can lower yourself down and repeat the process on your new standing leg. And that process of pulling behind you is actually your hamstrings, which are exactly what we're lengthening when we come forward into our hip hinge. So we want long hamstrings so that we've got range of motion in our walk, but the feeling of our hamstrings contracting and getting shorter is the feeling that is true posterior propelled walking. So what's really cool is we can feel this in our hinge. So I'm going to invite you to come down into your best hip hinge, and remember, it could be like this or it could be deeper than mine. Where you get to is less important than doing it purely through your hips. You're going to hang out here for a second and check in with your hips. And here I'm not getting anything under my toes. You don't need to make this harder than it's about to be. If you want, you can get your feet straight. That would be also a more advanced version. So from here, I want you just to shift your weight into your right leg. Can you feel how that changes the loading? It should be obvious to you that you've moved your weight and that your right leg is now loading harder. And from this exact position, can you imagine that you're pushing back with your left foot? Create the muscle work of pushing back without actually moving. See what that feels like in that leg, in the back of the leg. And now I want you to push so hard with the back of that leg that it ends up lifting your body up in space. And feel that feeling. Let's try that on the other side. You're going to come down. You're going to shift your weight over. Immediately, the left leg is loaded heavier than the right, so it should feel quite different. And then you're going to add on by pressing backwards isometrically, trying to push your heel behind you. This is your hamstring work. And then you're going to keep pushing that heel, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, and let that hamstring shorten to pull you all the way up into standing. So that exact shortening feeling is the feeling of posterior push-off in walking. So you can do that again as many times as you like. You can bend forward, shift your weight, press back to stand. If you want to add on, you're going to shift your weight, bend forward. You can bend forward and then shift your weight. You can do it either way. Got excited there. You can actually lift your other foot up off the ground, press back, and come back literally just on one leg. I kind of like it with both feet on the ground and just shifting your weight, because then you don't have to worry about balance. You can focus on the sensation, and this is all about learning the sensation so you can export it to your walking, but it's really up to you. Okay, so we're going to do that together one more time, and then I'm going to tell you how you can work on this in your walk. So you're going to shift your body weight back in space, your butt moves back as your torso rolls forward. Your spine is moving as little as you can possibly humanly manage. And let's shift to the left side this time. Feel the load in your left. Press back with your heel. Lift all the way up to standing. There you go. So that's that feeling of your hamstrings that we're looking for in a posterior push-off walk. Then, rolling forward, shifting your weight to the right side, left foot is light on the ground, press back with the right heel, come all the way up to standing. There you go. When you are walking, you are going to be limited, most likely, by your hip flexors and by the length of your hamstrings. So you may not get a ton of length in your stride. If you practice shorter, if you need to practice shorter, that's fine, because that way you're not going to have to compensate if you don't actually have the capacity. So you can make really small steps, and what you're going to do is find a slight hill. Not a big hill, because that's a different type of walking, but a slight hill. And as you walk, you want to think each time you take a step about pushing backwards with that leg and see if you can connect into that same hamstring feeling that we just practiced. And over time, you're going to be able to get it. And when you get it, you're going to be like, oh, the angels are singing, because you'll feel it. It's quite obvious when you finally do. So this exercise plus regularly checking it out on a hill should help you connect. There's always more you can do, but this should be a great starter to get you there. So there you go. That's the posterior push-off feeling. It's pretty awesome. I'm going to catch you in the last video, which is all going to be about really activating some hip mobility using our hip hinge. Okay?